Calling to order the Harwich Planning Board meeting for Tuesday, February 27th, 2018, and the time is 6:33, let's say. The town is audio taping and videotaping this meeting, and anyone that does it on their own is required to notify the chair of that. Having said that, the first item on the agenda, and by the way, we have one member participating from, two members participating remotely.
Actually, there's only one.
Only one.
Only Alan. He's actually on his way to the meeting.
He's on his way here because of communication difficulties. However, the first item on the agenda is a continuation of a public hearing. That's been read into the record, Charlene has?
Yes, it has.
Okay. That's Jason and Joshua, and I've tried it before, but I'll just ruin it, so.
McNevich.
McNevich. Does Vidania. Okay. This is, for anybody, the proposal is looking to construct a 6,000 square foot commercial structure, and you can tell us all about it now.
Sure. Well, we were here 2 weeks ago. And we
Yep,
sort of
identify
went through
yourself and.
David McNevich, Coastal Engineering Company.
Thank you.
So what's before you is a revised site plan based on a discussion 2 weeks ago. One of the things that got revised was a retaining wall along the south side of the building. We extended it easterly to extend across the south side of the building. That was done at the request of the Conservation Commission in order to eliminate some of the grading on the south side of the building. And then we hadn't discussed it last time, but I talked about it with Conservation Commission. In the southwest corner of the paved parking area, we actually pulled about 500 and slightly more than 530 square feet of pavement. We deleted that from the plan. That was right in that southwest corner. It extended down into the buffer zone, and we took that amount of pavement out of the buffer zone. And then the last thing I think we added to the plan was we showed the outdoor, the equipment and materials storage area, as we had discussed at the last meeting. So really, that's a summation of the changes. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them for you.
Okay. Charlene? Oh, Charlene first.
I've reviewed, I gotta find my staff report here. I want to thank Dave for being so timely in getting the revised plans to us. It gave us an opportunity to re-review them. I really have, I couldn't find space number 8. It is on the plan. Apparently I was tired when I read it. But after reviewing the revised plan, I have no issues. I think he's addressed all the concerns raised by this board. So I have nothing further to add.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, Dave, in the storage area, the outside storage area, what sort of equipment and materials are you planning to have?
That is like trailers with maybe some, like a Bobcat or something like that on it. That's type of thing. It's smaller equipment, if you will.
Okay. Anyone else? I think I answered most of our questions last week. Okay.
You may want to ask the public or
Yep.
also Alan.
Alan, do you have any questions?
No, all set.
Okay. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment? Feel free, you can come up and get practice on this one if you want to.
That's okay.
Okay. Hearing no comments from the public. No more comments from the board.
You want to close the hearing?
Yep. Joe?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. McFarland and seconded by Mr. Atkinson to close the meeting. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Roll call.
Oh, it's a roll call vote again tonight,
Actually-
isn't it?
Is Dave on now?
Yes, Dave is on. No, Dave's not on there.
No, it beeped, so I'm wondering if Dave came on.
Somebody's on.
Dave, did you just come on?
No, just Alan. Okay.
Nope, my bell.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a roll call vote.
That's right.
Jim?
Four.
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Aye. Ellen? Ellen? Aye. It would be unanimous. Okay, that being the case, let's see.
Ready to go?
Yep, I am.
Move to vote to adopt the following findings. 1, Main Street provides for adequate access, provided the concerns of the police department are complied with. 2, the access as proposed meets the minimum standards of the zoning code. 3, the plan provides for efficient and safe disposal of surface water. 4, the use is consistent with the zoning code and will not adversely affect the neighborhood. 5, there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I will ask for a roll call vote. Jim?
Aye.
Joe?
Yes?
Yes?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous.
Move to approve with conditions case number PB 2017-32 for Joshua and Jason Mishninowitz, respective owners under agreement, care of David J. Mishninowitz, P.E., representative for property located at 45 Main Street Extension, for site plan review special permit pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich, 325-55, for the construct of a 6,000 square foot, 6-bay commercial structure and certain appurtenant site amenities for construction industry use on aforementioned findings of fact, and the fact that the application meets the necessary requirements and criteria for approval pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich under the following conditions. 1, the special permit shall comply with all boards of health and conservation commission requirements and reviews. 2, any changes to the site plan or changes of use, uses other than light industry and manufacturing, shall be subject to further planning board review and approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote again. Jim? Joe?
Yes?
Yes?
Yes.
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
It's been approved unanimously. Thank you very much. Good luck. Next item on the agenda is item B, Planning Board, number 2018-02, Stephen Allard and Lorraine Lynch, owners. Care of John Riley, professional engineer and public land surveyor, representative. The application with waivers seeks approval of a use special permit for a detached accessory apartment pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich, section 325-51H and Article 5, use regulations. The proposal seeks to construct an 890 plus or minus square foot, 2-bedroom dwelling unit above a 3-bay garage. The property is located at 165 Pleasant Bay Road, map 13, parcel P6 in the RR and WR zoning district. Mr. O'Reilly.
Good evening.
Oh, wait, before we do that, yeah, go ahead,
Yeah, him first.
go ahead.
Thank you very much. For the record, my name is John O'Reilly. I've been engaged by Steve Allard and Lorraine, his wife, to prepare the site plan that you're reviewing today. Give you a little bit of history of the lot as far as Steve and Lorraine purchased the property back in August of 2017. It's 2.89 acres or 125,880 square feet. Large, it's 130 feet wide and almost 980 feet long, so it's a very long and narrow lot. Sorry.
You can take Ellen off speaker.
Mr. O'Reilly, are your clients here?
No, I was going to get to that.
Thank you.
Steve Allard is been diagnosed, has multiple sclerosis, and is relegated to a wheelchair. Getting to night meetings is very difficult for him, so he does apologize for not being here tonight. As I was saying, the property is located between the Walden's Wood subdivision and Hall's Path subdivision. We are looking for a special permit to site an accessory apartment, which will house Lorraine's parents initially. Steve and Lorraine reside currently in Brewster, and they are moving to Harwich to build their retirement home, which will be their primary residence, and have the apartment for their in-laws. The apartment meets all your dimensional requirements as far as setback to property line, size, as far as the 890 square foot of living space on the second floor. The first floor is a garage. It has 3 doors into the garage, but the reason for the rear garage door is Mr. Allard's family owns an RV, and he is building the garage to store his RV inside the building, so it does not become a site for himself or his neighbors. There are 2 bedrooms in the apartment, and I think what I'll do at this point is, just to, if anyone has been out there, Mr. Allard and his family were given a building permit to construct the main dwelling, which consists of 5 bedrooms, an attached garage, and an indoor pool. Once that permit was issued, construction on the dwelling has started, and we have then filed for the permit for the accessory dwelling. I did go over the criteria for a special permit approval. I believe we meet all the requirements. Your staff has a letter from Mr. Allard stating that this will be his primary residence of the main house. As far as the septic system, there's a total of 7 bedrooms being proposed, 2 in the apartment and 5 in the main dwelling. The septic system is located in between the 2 areas and is fully compliant with Title V and Town of Harwich's sanitary regulations. The lines of sight coming into the property, this is on an outside curve on Pleasant Bay Road, and lines of sight going east and west are very extensive. I would say the one going west is probably close to 400 to 500 feet, and the one going east is probably close to 250, 300 feet before the next bend. There will be a driveway that services the dwelling, the main dwelling, as well as a driveway that will connect down to the accessory apartment. The idea with the accessory apartment was not only to provide a living quarters for Steve's in-laws, Lorraine's parents, but also, if the need arises, to have the ability to have some home health care housing on the property in case his health deteriorates to the point that he will need it. The property is planned to be fenced for the family's pet dog, and he is planning to screen the buildings, particularly the pool area and the deck areas, to screen the dwelling from the abutters. I believe in a nutshell that is that's my presentation. I was kind enough to get the comments back from staff as well as 2 letters from the abutters, and I can either answer those questions when the time comes, or I can answer some of those questions now.
We'll probably wait until they're read into the record. Charlene?
Do you want my staff report first or the letters?
Whichever you'd like to do first. We're much better listeners than readers.
The board did receive 2 letters from abutters. Dear Planning Board members, unfortunately, we will not be able to attend the February 27 public hearing pertaining to the special permit for a 3-car garage and a 2-bedroom apartment above requested by Steve and Lorraine Allard. We wish the Allards happiness in their new home. However, since this garage and apartment will be located about 200 feet downhill from the Allards' main home, but only 20 feet from our backyard, as abutters, we would like to register some serious concerns. To begin with, what will the garage be used for? We are in a residential area and, excuse me, and the parking of trucks or storage of construction or other commercial equipment would be inappropriate. Also, there will be a large 7-bedroom capacity septic system located in the same vicinity as the garage that is at the bottom of the hill close to our property. Much of the old trees and vegetation have been removed from the large portion of the property. This raises the concern about rain runoff from the cleared property. That road runoff from the cleared property may have an adverse effect on that septic system. In addition, will any rain runoff have an impact on our property? In view of the fact that a large portion of the property has been cleared, will more trees and vegetation have to be removed? These are all questions that we hope will be answered at the meeting. We have owned our home at 5 Walden Way for 18 years, and it is a very special place for our family. The garage behind us will certainly have an impact on us and our neighbors. We hope you will take all of our concerns into consideration when you make your decision. Respectfully, Michael and Judith Lavenga. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And a second letter to the planning board from Brian and Nancy Sheld at 27 Walden Way. Unfortunately, we were unable to attend the Tuesday, February 27th planning board meeting hearing regarding the property located at 165 Pleasant Bay Road. We understand that it is to seek approval for a special permit for a detached accessory apartment over a 3-car garage. We did receive a registered notice stating that we are abutters. Our concerns are expressed below. We are concerned about any potential disruption that the Allards construction and landscaping might cause to the current natural vegetation, as well as any potential impact to water runoff that might be created as this natural terrain is disturbed. We suggest that the following conditions be brought forward at the planning board meeting on February 27th. Conduct a study to assess whether or not proposed landscaping will cause water runoff towards any bordering properties. If so, it must be addressed by the Allards with the plan that will then be reviewed by the abutters before executing. Second, establish a plan to replace and replant disturbed natural vegetation well within the border of the open space boundary, which will be viewed by the abutters before executing. Thank you for your consideration. I have reviewed the application, as has staff. The Conservation, Health, Engineering, Water, and Fire departments have all reviewed the plan and have no concerns, although the Water Department did indicate that the property will require a meter pit. Sorry about that. I was here really late last night, so I'm a little squirrely today. The police department has no issues as long as the line of sight allows for maximum viewing of Pleasant Bay Road for those exiting the property, and that no parking occurs on Pleasant Bay Road. I think Mr. O'Reilly has indicated that there's plenty of line of sight. With regard to my comments, administrative and filing requirements have all been met. Staff recommends approval of the waivers requested, and I indicated as of February 20th there had only been one letter, but there are now 2 letters from the abutters. Just for the board's information, the board cannot require any applicant to landscape anything other than their own property, and even then on an accessory apartment, it's a single-family dwelling. This is not a commercial development. There are no landscaping requirements for residential uses. So I just share that with the board.
Okay.
Charlene, can I
Yes.
ask a question? Do I read this plan correctly, that these folks on Walden Way have a piece of property, looks to me like owned by Walden Woods Nominee Trust?
The subdivisions on either side of this this parcel are both open space village developments. So each, there are buffer areas as part of the open space development on either side of this property. So I know on the Walden Way side, there is a 20-foot buffer as part of the open space part of the plan.
And the Hall's
It's
path
shown
thing
on
is on the
the
other side.
hatch line, and on the other side, I believe it's also 20 feet, but don't hold me to that. But it is a minimum of 20
A
feet.
little difficult with this plan. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from members of the board? Having no questions from members,
Do you want to hear back from John on this? On the comments from the,
certainly on the two letters, okay, and then we'll hear from the public, okay?
Sure. The, as the committee member was correct, both subdivisions in either side were cluster subdivisions, and the open space areas directly abut our property on the east, west, and south side. Walden Way comes in, and it was further extended to the south side of our locust property as well. I talked to Mr. Allard several times about landscaping, and it's my understanding that when we file this with the town, he sent out his own address, his own letter to the neighbors, indicating his intent or their intent to landscape the property. What he has done, for those of you who have not been out there, is he has gone out and brush hogged the limit of area for within the existing home, the proposed home, the main home, and the apartment. He left several trees, which he wanted to keep because they were the straightest and the best specimens that are on the lot, with the intention of that they open up and further develop. The intent is to screen the pool area from the main house from the abutters, as well as the accessory apartment from the abutters. He talks about rhododendrons, he talks about a fence for his dog. So he has made an attempt to at least reach out to the abutting folks. As far as the runoff is concerned, I believe we will contain all our runoff on our site. The topography starts out at a relatively flat elevation coming off the road, and then once you get past the main house, it rolls down into a low point and then comes back up ever so slightly to where the proposed apartment is. And then once you get past the proposed apartment, it continues to climb to a point towards the end of the property, and then it rolls back down to the south. The Walden Way subdivision is actually at a slightly higher elevation, and the topography runs from the west to the east. So obviously there'd be no runoff running towards the Walden Woods area, based on the topography that we've obtained. And as I said in my opening comments, the septic system is located in between the two. It's located in a situation where we're taking advantage of the low point between the two buildings. It's gravity and all below ground. So I don't foresee an issue with any type of impact to abutting properties from either erosion of washout or runoff.
Okay, any questions? Okay. I will open it up to members of the public. So when you stand up, just tell us who you are and where you live and who wants to start. Go ahead. You can go up to the mic, or you can come up to the table, whichever you feel more comfortable with.
I'll come up to the table.
Okay.
I'll sit next to Mr. Womack. Do you have the site plan up on the, there you go. My name is Arthur Hanrahan. I live on Walden Way, and I do appreciate the opportunity to address the board, and I thank you for this. We have a number of abutters to the property. There are 12 abutters to this property. It's a very long property. There are 3 locations involved here: Harding Lane, Hall's Path, and Walden Way. Again, there are 12 abutters. It's a very emotional issue for all of us. That's why we have such a large crowd here tonight, because the area has basically been clear-cut so far. There's a few little trees that have been left in place, but the damage to those trees, because all of the other trees have been uprooted, those trees they're not gonna survive more than a couple of years, because there's just, their root structure is destroyed. But it is an emotional issue, and I want to be positive with our comments, and hopefully you can take this back to the owners. As far as the lot itself, unfortunately, the town of Harwich and all of these towns on the Cape, they really don't have any zoning requirements for a property within a drinking water resource area. This property is totally is located within a resource area, drinking water resource area. There are signs along Pleasant Bear Road that says, urging caution because you are entering into the watershed. In fact, one of the wells for the drinking supply for Harwich is located within a quarter of a mile of this property. The site plan shows, well, it shows that, let me get over here with a ruler.
You need to use a microphone, sir.
Pardon?
You need to use a microphone.
I do?
We'll give it to you.
You can,
You can walk around with it. There's a limit to how far you can walk, though.
well, I'm not gonna walk too far, don't worry about
It's
that.
actually really low.
Here's the main house. It's all been cleared. This entire area here basically has been cleared with exception of a few trees here and there. The site plan just shows this narrow 12-foot wide driveway leading down to the septic and then the proposed garage. I don't understand, and maybe the engineer can tell me why all of these trees were disturbed when you're only going to use this little driveway. That's one issue. The second issue is you talk about water. Up here, it's 50 feet elevation. It goes down, slopes down. The septic system is at 36 feet elevation. The property here is at 41 feet elevation. All of this clearing, then you've got a paved road here, you've got all of this paved surface here. All that water is going to pool down into that septic. The properties over here on Hall's Path are at 36 feet. So again, it's all run down. I didn't see in the site plan any mitigation for drainage. There's absolutely nothing. All it is septic, septic, septic. Nothing about drainage. And that is a major concern, as you saw in some of the letters. As far as, I guess I'm done with this. I don't want to trip. Thank you. As far as mitigation, we're asking that something be done for the water runoff, number one. Number two, if the Allards have proposed planting some rhododendrons and grass, I would like to offer that they also include some fast-growing trees such as Leland cypress and pines to fill in that area that I pointed out. Because there is going to be a lot more disturbance with this apartment. That area has not been cleared yet, and that's going to be substantial when you look at the size of this septic system, a 7-bedroom septic, and then the garage itself, and there's a very, very large apron around the garage itself, which is cause for concern. Why is it so large? Because it's going to require more taking. If you look at the size of the apron around the garage versus the size of the apron around the main house, it raises some questions. And the questions we have is, Mr. Allard is a builder. His business is located in Brewster. And I believe his construction company is doing the whole job. We're concerned that this apartment may be used for storing heavy equipment, building supplies, et cetera, et cetera. And you look at a 3-car garage on top of a 2-car garage at the main house, and then that large apron area around the apartment, you wonder why all of this garage? And so the thing that came to our mind is, you know, is he looking to store some equipment, which we really do not want. In summing up some of the things that we would like to address the board, number one is that no construction vehicles or heavy equipment be allowed to be stored in or around this accessory apartment. Limit the size of the garage doors in this accessory apartment so that they're consistent with residential size garage doors, which is 9 feet wide and 8 feet high. That will be sure that we won't get any large equipment in there. Minimize further clearing with the excavator. The excavator has done a terrible job in there. If all of you have walked that lot, you've seen the size of this excavator, and it's awful to look at that thing going through there and just knocking down tree after tree after tree with no regard for the environment, absolutely none. I don't think Mr. Allard realized that much clearing was being done, especially since he's in a situation where he's in a wheelchair. He probably doesn't see the back of the lot. There are a lot of trees that have been uprooted and piled up all over the place. The site is a mess, and we're asking that be cleaned up as soon as possible. We've been looking at this mess for 6 weeks. We also want to put in some conditions to alleviate the drainage issues, which we think are pretty severe when you look at the slope and the area of pavement that's going to be added into this lot. We've never had a problem with water. It was a treed lot, so the trees soak up a lot of water. So there's never been a problem, but this is a game changer. The Allards did offer a mitigation plan for some rhododendrons. We're asking that Leland cypress and pines and et cetera be also put forth. And then I have one question that you mentioned, they have a dog. What kind of a dog is this that's going to have to be fenced in?
I don't know, actually.
Well, we'd like to find out. I mean, is it a pit bull or something like that, or?
We can't zone dogs.
And I guess the
It's not a
question,
kennel.
the question might be, you're surely not fencing the whole lot, I don't imagine.
All I can say is what Mr. Allard said in his letter, and he was planning to fence the yard, to
Okay.
keep the dog inside the yard.
Okay, I would guess it's around the building. I'd like to have the fence contract for that one.
Yeah.
However,
Yes. Well, as long as it's not a kennel, a bunch of dogs going to be out there barking all the time, but you don't have any
No,
authority
okay.
on that. But that's just a neighbor issue.
okay,
So, thank you for your time.
that's it?
That's
Okay.
it for me, unless you have a question.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Sir, can you tell us, what's the size of your lot?
My lot is a half acre.
And where,
Basically, all the lots on Walden Woods are half acre lots.
thank you. I think the
Any
record-
other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
for
the
Mr.
record should reflect that this lot that we're looking at is 2.86 acres.
Right, it's almost not 3 acres, yeah.
Okay, any other questions from members of the board for Mr. Hanrahan?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
And who else would like to speak next? Step right up. Oh. Go up to the mic. Yep.
My name is Julius Lepner, and I'm representing several of our neighbors from Hall's Path, which is abutting on the other side of Walden Woods. Just a couple of questions, not nearly as fancy as what Art had put forth. It just seems that a five-car garage seems like an awful lot for just 5 garage spaces is a lot for a residence. And again, our issue is what those garages are going to be used for, since he's Mr. Allard's in the construction business. One thing that we sure don't want to see is trucks going in and out of there every day if he's continuing on with his business. So we'd like to have that question answered, as I'm sure that some other questions similar have come up. Also, with, what is it, 7 bedrooms total?
Yes, sir.
7 bedrooms and 5-car garage, it sounds like a B&B. So I guess we're a little concerned. Is the in-law apartment going to be, is that going to be for continual use or just in and out? Just occasional use, or is that permanent for the in-laws?
Charlene, could you,
I can't answer that.
oh, I mean, well, the bylaw itself, you can answer for the bylaw.
Well, if somebody can rent out an apartment, the only requirement is they have to reside in either the main house or the apartment. But whichever unit they choose, they can rent if they choose to.
The other one.
Yeah, the other one.
Okay.
And that apartment contains a kitchen and a bathroom?
Sir.
It does, yeah. Is there some reason why it's so far back in the lot? I mean, if it's an in-law apartment, I can kind of understand he wants to be far away from the other house. They're going to need an Uber to go back and forth. So I'm just wondering why it was so far back.
I'm sorry, I'm chuckling because I made a similar remark to Lorraine. It's her parents that are moving into the building, so. Initially, I've been working with Steve off and on finding a retirement piece of land for him and his family for a long time. He told me today that he has been retired from the building business for 3 years because of health reasons. He currently owns a construction yard and shop in Brewster on the corner of Millstone Road and 137. The intention is for this property to be his place of residence. The in-law apartment is initially going to be used for Lorraine's parents. And once they are done using it, it will be rented to either a person or an individual. But he also mentioned to me that their thought process is if they do need medical assistance, one way they can stay in the house longer is to have an opportunity for some health care people living in the apartment.
A caregiver type thing.
Yes, caregiver type of thing. I can't answer why they're so separated, other than they wanted the space between the two structures. As far as the big apron around the garage, it's, the apron around the garage is so the RV that the family owns can be pulled around the building and through the garage. There's a garage door on the front of the building and a garage door on the back of the building. It's 11 feet high, the garage doors, so the RV is planned to be inside of that building. The other garage spot is going to be used by the tenant, whether it be the in-laws or whoever.
Okay.
So that is the reason for the large apron around the building. And the architectural plans show a garage door in the front and a garage door on the back, just so a car can come along.
Meaning here and here?
Exactly, sir.
And the RV is going to go where?
The RV is through the chair. The RV will be in this location.
It's also up on the screen,
Yeah.
John.
I know.
Did you have a
It
pointer?
We do have a pointer.
I don't.
Need a laser pointer.
Yeah, we had one. I thought we had one. Does it laser?
I promise I won't point at anybody.
It's right there, yes, exactly where the dot is. So the RV will pull around the building, garage door will open, the RV will be pulled in, stored, or not in use. So it's out, the intention was for it not to be out in the open for him and his abutters to stare at.
Okay.
So that's the intention on why the garage doors are larger and why there's such a large wraparound. He sent me an email the other day specifically stating that he is retired from the building business and he has no intention of putting his shop in the back. I can certainly understand the concern, but he's looking to retire. And he is retired, and he's looking for a new place to live in that will have some in-law.
And if I could stand corrected, but if I remember correctly, construction vehicles can't be stored on a residential lot, am I correct?
Only one.
Only one. Okay, any questions from the board?
I think did I answer any of your questions?
Yeah, you did.
Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, thank you. And wish them well. We hope that their landscaping plan provides them some privacy as well as us that we've lost with all the clear cutting, so, but we wish them well.
Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
My name is David Anderson. I work with the Walden Woods folks in the association that we have there. And I have just one question that I wanted to just bring. I think it's been addressed, but it seemed to me it might be something to be sure we understand correctly. I think the most important issue here is that property, particularly the garages, or where the mother-in-law apartment is that going to be used for a business purpose? Because the Walden Woods Association and the other properties around there are all just residents, and any kind of business purpose would really be difficult and unfortunate. So is there any confidence or anything you could say to give us some confidence that we're not going to have to revisit this at some point?
Charlene?
The property is not zoned commercially,
Yes.
so there cannot be that kind of use there. However, anybody who has a residential home can have a home occupation. So there's nothing saying that either Mr. Allard or his tenant or a future owner couldn't have a home occupation there.
But I don't mean to interrupt, but what does that mean, that term?
It's generally like if you're an accountant and you
Yeah.
have an office in your house.
Sure.
Or you're a seamstress and
Okay.
you have a shop in your house.
Yes.
You know, those kind of things.
Got it. Okay, so the zoning per se does not include any business
That's a limiting
purpose.
factor, yes.
So there's nothing to worry about there, obviously.
You'd have to come back to rezone it and go to the town meeting.
Okay, great. Use the term hotel care?
Home health care.
Home health.
Home health.
I didn't hear it right. I did.
I could have said hotel. No, home health care.
Home health.
Okay, great. That's all I have, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Joe?
Do you live in Walden Woods?
Yes,
Oh, okay. So you represent the folks from
I
Walden
do,
Woods?
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Good
Anderson.
group, welcome.
Next. If anybody has a question, stand up and ask it.
That's why we
Go
have
right ahead.
Public hearings.
My name is Mark McManus. I'm a resident of Halls Path, also a member of the Halls Path Homeowners Association Board of Trustees. Just a couple of things. Something really bothered me during this gentleman's testimony, because I think it's important to be straightforward with the board. But he said the site was brush hogged, okay? And that's not really the case. It was a forested lot, just like ours, the whole area, relatively mature trees. Yes, there's a lot of undergrowth and stuff like that, but a brush hog is a certain piece of equipment that's used to clear like the side of a road, to clear a field that's overgrown. Brush hogging does not mean several guys with chainsaws, big excavating equipment. Okay, so I sort of question the term there to try to underplay what was really done there, okay? And, you know, consequently, I think the issue of drainage should really be addressed. I would think just, you know, what's been done here, I think, is circumvented having an initial planning commission review of the whole property before the property was even developed, okay? Obviously, you can just get a permit for a single-family dwelling, you know, without any hearing, and then go in and just do all the clearing you want. Now he's back and has to have planning commission review. I think what would have been more appropriate for a 3-acre site like this would have been to review the whole project first, had a real site plan review, looking at the issues and having a landscape plan, having a drainage plan, you know, just so we had a chance as neighbors and also as a board to look at an overall site plan development rather than something piecemeal. I think it would have been a much more appropriate way to look at it. And maybe would address a lot of these concerns up front before the plan was even submitted. Okay, so that's just my concern. I really think there is going to be a drainage issue, and I would hate to have to come back after the fact and say, you know, we're getting runoff on our property or our common areas. And, you know, I think there's also been some allusion to the fact that both Walden Woods and Hall's Path have common areas abutting this property, okay? Well, those are our common areas, okay? So just because we have a buffer, okay, to me that doesn't mean that's great. You know, now it's like, well, it's our buffer too because it's between us, okay? I don't like the inference there that we already have a buffer, so, you know, maybe not one is needed, okay?
I think partially to answer your question, we're limited by what we can do.
Right.
The zoning for a residential home, we don't get site plan review. It just doesn't come. And this admittedly is a big lot, but it falls under the same zoning. So
right.
we don't have that authority to stop it. And
if
we were in England, it might be different, but.
Yeah, I'm just saying it would
Mr.
have.
Chairman, may I speak to
Go right ahead.
a comment that was made? I certainly was not inferring that the buffer zones belong to the applicant. I answered a question of Joe asking if there were buffers as part of the subdivisions that abut this property. That's all I was saying, and there are.
Yeah.
There are.
The plan is not the one, I realize there's a bigger one, but the one I'm looking at is a little bit more difficult to read.
I'm not saying anything was done wrong here. I just think it would have been more appropriate for the owner to have the whole site plan development reviewed at once, rather than piecemeal. That's all. Not saying there's anything wrong or anything that shouldn't have been approved by the zoning administrator right off the bat, because everything that's done so far is well within zoning rights.
I understand your question, and it would be somewhat different if we were looking at a town. Well, it wouldn't be different if we were looking at a town with all 3 or 4 acre zoning. You know, it's just not something we do, and I can understand that you think we should do a site plan review. We do site plan reviews, but not with residential. The zoning code doesn't call for it, and we have, you know, we can suggest things, but that's it. Our suggestions are merely that, and I think the best thing that you can do is work with John and with the owner, and he's going to live there. This is my thought. He's going to live there, so he wants it. I'm expecting he'll want it to look as good as he can look. I mean, he's spending, I'm guessing, a fair amount of money on this property, and I don't, you know, if it was me spending $1 million on a home, I wouldn't like it looking poorly. I don't think he's going to. I can't read his mind, but that's all I can offer.
Yeah. No, we're hoping for the best. I mean, we'd like to, you know, we've already welcomed him, and, you know, hopefully we're going to be good neighbors. It just been a couple of things that have sort of raised my suspicions about, you know, what's going on by, you know, saying, you know, we went in there and brush hogged the place. You know. That's not true.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's important to say to you that when you built, or if you did buy your house or build your house, there was a 2.86 parcel of land there. Now, because I've been on this board so long, that's the first thing I'd go looking for. You probably didn't even realize it was a 2.86 lot between you and the other side.
No, we did.
Okay, all right.
No, first thing when we bought our property is we have the 46 acres of water department property behind us. So, yeah, the first thing I did was call the water department, see if they were gonna do anything with it.
So,
Oh, Jim? Yes.
So, Mr. McManus, have you spoken with,
Mr. Allard?
yeah, Mr. Allard or
No.
Ms. Lynch?
No.
So have any of you spoken with, had a conversation?
No.
I went to his place of business to try and talk with him.
Nobody can hear him.
Nobody can hear you from back there.
No, I said I
Mr.
went to his
Hanrahan.
place of business.
Actually, you can go to the podium.
Podium.
There you go.
I'm all done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McManus.
I went to his place of business.
Yep.
And to see if I could talk with him. But the building was, his office was all closed, and it looked like the furniture was even removed. So it didn't even look like it was he was active any longer in that location. But the name of the little mall where he's at has his name on it, Allard Professional Building. So he built it.
So I think probably the best thing to do, Art, is probably work right through John. I mean, you can at least get a way of communication through John. And if you don't have John's card, I bet he's got some in his pocket.
Ooh, that might be a challenge.
Have you got a crayon?
I think they know where to find me if they need to.
So your name's on the site plan, right?
Yeah, and my contact information's all on there.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
moving forward, yes.
You know, I understand concerns raised by the abutters, but this is a use special permit for an accessory apartment. It's not a site plan review. You can't get into the landscaping, whether it should have been come in all at once. You know, it met all the requirements. So the board is very, very limited in what it can condition on a use special permit, particularly for an accessory apartment, or whether it was a duplex or what have you, any kind of residential. If it was multifamily, that's a horse of a different color, then it would come under site
That's a-
plan review.
That's a Palomino.
Okay. So, you know, the board is very limited on what it can and cannot do. And in this case, there's not a lot that the board can do relative to conditions.
So my suggestion, and I would suggest that just stay in contact with John, and he can at least get in touch with Mr. Allard, and he's going to be your new neighbor.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. Any discussion? By Joe and Jim. Hearing no discussion.
You need a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
No, he's not on.
Sorry.
I'm here.
You're not there.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, the
Mr.
next,
Chairman, I move to approve the waiver of the requirements of the hydrological evaluation pursuant to 325-51, C parent 2, and pursuant to 400-6, waivers of any and all commercial or residential requirements of the bylaw that are not applicable to this petition.
Second.
been moved by Mr. McFarland, seconded by Mr. Atkinson. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, I vote to adopt, or move to adopt the following findings of fact. 1, the parcel is in the RR and WR zoning district. 2, the apartment unit is not greater than 900 square feet, being 887 plus or minus square feet. It is the owner's intent to continue to reside and occupy the main dwelling on the property. 4, minimum requirements have been met for setbacks, area, and bulk. 5, The driveway and garage will provide sufficient off-street parking, which meets the minimum requirements. 6, the application, as submitted, does not adversely affect local traffic or create traffic hazards. 32551H2.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you very much.
And
Thank
wait a
thank
minute, we're
everyone
not
for-
done yet.
Oh,
Move to approve with the conditions, the use special permit and waivers for Stephen Allen and Lorraine Lynch, owners, for a detached accessory apartment pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich, 32551H, and Article 5 use regulation. The proposal seeks to construct an 890 plus or minus square foot, two-bedroom dwelling unit above a three-bay garage. The property is located at 165 Pleasant Bay Road, map 113, parcel P6, in the R-R and WR zoning district. The approval is based on the fact that the application meets the necessary requirements and criteria for approval pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich with the above findings and following conditions. 1, the owner shall maintain occupancy in one of the units as required by the town code. 2, the special permit decision shall be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. 3, any changes to the plan shall be subject to further planning board review.
Second.
been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried unanimously. Again, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
No, he's not on. Dave didn't call in. It's a little awkward with that. There's nothing you can do about it. I can understand. There's nothing you can do about it.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Can we,
Okay, if everybody can move out, we're going to continue on to the next agenda item. Okay? We'll move them out. Why don't you start that one, and go in the bathroom.
Excuse me, could those people who are having separate discussions in the back of the room, please leave so we can continue? Excuse me, ma'am? Excuse me?
Hello?
Excuse me? We're trying to continue with the meeting, so if you could have your discussions out of the hallway, please.
although Mr. Brophy did have to excuse himself for a moment, so.
Right, and so as vice chairman of the planning board,
Jim's jumping in.
and the chairman
You
authorized...
can open the hearing, but you
Yes,
can't take
I
any
would-
testimony yet.
Right. I would like to open the hearing for number C on the list, Karen, and I'll probably pronounce this wrong, so I apologize.
Pioli.
Andrioli, owner, care of James Stinson, attorney representative. The application with waivers seeks approval of a use special permit for a detached accessory apartment pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich, section 325-51.H and Article 5 use regulations. The proposal seeks to construct an 870 square foot, two-story, single-bedroom dwelling unit via the demolition of an existing non-conforming garage. The property is located at 59 Neal Road, map 16, parcel N1-43 in the RR zoning district. And I will now turn the meeting back over to the chairman.
Oh, you didn't want to finish it? Mr. Stinson.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Attorney James Stinson. I represent the petitioner Karen Andrioli. With me is Dan Croto from Moran Engineering, who is the project engineer. As indicated in the notice read by Mr. Atkinson, this is a request for a detached one-bedroom accessory apartment. The property in question contains approximately 31,970 square feet, located in the RL zoning district. For an accessory apartment in the RL zoning district, we need at least 20,000 square feet, so we satisfy that criteria. Another criteria is the petitioner has to be the owner of the property. Karen Andrioli is the owner of the property. She owns it with her husband, John, although John's name is not on the title. The petitioner has an existing home which was built in or about 2003, and again, this is based upon the assessor's records. They acquired the property in 95, built the house in 2003, and that is a large house, 4,260 square feet. The accessory apartment is going to be 869.7 square feet. It's going to have a deck in the front and a pergola. On the plan, we have also showed a pool. And this gets back to a little bit of what you mentioned in the previous hearing, site plan review. We wanted to, it's not required, but we wanted to do a comprehensive plan of what we were going to show. So we have included the pool, which is proposed for the future. In the calculations we have for site coverage include the area taken up by the pool. The pool could have been built as a matter of right, but the primary objective of this petition is the accessory apartment. I've spoken to one abutter who has made requests regarding maintaining down lighting so that the lighting would be pretty much directed onto this property. We don't have a problem doing that. The requirement for the affidavit regarding occupancy, I've run a copy of the proposed affidavit of occupancy by Charlene. We've tweaked it a little bit. I do apologize that Karen Andrioli is not here this evening. She was flying into Boston and planned on being here, but her flight was late. She was going to sign that affidavit of occupancy this evening, so I would ask that this board, who grants a special permit, condition the issuance after the grant upon the receipt of that affidavit. I think I will defer to Mr. Croto, but to the extent added this bedroom, it may require a increase in the size of the leaching field, which we're prepared to do. In fact, I think we show that on the site plan that we would.
I'll take that, Jim. Dan Croto from Moran Engineering. After speaking with the architect on the existing house, right now the existing house is 4-bedroom with a, I guess it's called the bonus room above the garage. It's an existing 6-bedroom septic, so I believe we're not touching the leaching area, but the new building needs its own septic tank and pump chamber to go up to the leach area. So I think if I remember what the architect was planning for the existing house, or the floor layout of the existing house, that the only septic system work will be a new septic tank and pump chamber for this additional bedroom, and then it will use the same leaching area as already exists, which is a 6-bedroom leach area.
Proposal also complies with all dimensional zoning requirements. We had the existing garage. It was 6.7 feet from the lot line. We didn't seek to hang our hat on that as a pre-existing non-conforming use and seek some kind of use of that. We simply have opted to take it down and put the new structure with 20-foot setback from the sideline. We also comply with all of the site and building coverage requirements, and that took some doing, factoring in the area that the pool took and the area for the back entrance to the accessory apartment. There is a basement doorway, and that extends out 4 feet from the side of the house, but it doesn't count against the setback because if it's not over 4 feet, the rear step and the stairway to the basement storage are exempt, and you can go half the setback, meaning 10 feet. So, but that is
the whole project in a nutshell, so if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, good.
And I also want to add, I think it looks pretty much, I know there's a requirement in the accessory apartment bylaw that it be in keeping with the style as much as possible of the main house. I think this is Cape Cod in appearance. It's going to be shingled, cedar shingled siding, and
I know I'm not supposed to get into aesthetics, but it really is a nice-looking building.
Go ahead, Charlene, while you're there.
Attorney Stinson addressed a couple of the items, the fact that an affidavit has not been received yet. It would be my recommendation that if the board sees fit to move on this evening, that an additional condition would be an affidavit from the owner indicating that the property owner shall reside in one of the units shall be submitted to the planning board prior to the issuance of a building permit, would be a suggested condition. I this evening received the certified receipt showing that abutters were notified. Going back to other staff comments, the Conservation Department indicated that this would require additional permits review if any work takes place in the AE flood zone, so that would need conservation approval. The Health Department has indicated an existing floor plan of the main dwelling will be required to be reviewed to ensure that it does not exceed a total of 5 bedrooms. Dan spoke to that. The septic system will need to be inspected to ensure it is functioning and adequate for the added bedroom. In the accessory apartment, a disposal works construction permit will be required to be installed, will be required to install the required additional tank. Police Department had no issues relative to criminal justice or public safety, and there were no other concerns of other departments that reviewed the application. But at this time, I have absolutely no concerns with any of the waivers that have been requested.
Okay, any questions by members of the board?
also, we're not clearing any land. We're not taking down any trees. It's
I've
all
noticed
been
there's a
cleared.
pine tree I'm curious about.
Picking up on the previous.
You don't have a whole lot to do anything with there.
Is that rock wall between the two properties, is that existing?
Yes, it is.
I couldn't get back down in there, that's why.
And I do believe somebody asked if there was a dog.
What kind of dog?
We have a tree with a chain. That'll take care of the dog.
Sorry. I'm very tired.
Levity is always good.
I would suggest. Are there any comments from the public? Aha.
Mr. Chairman, Richard Waysdeck, I'm the direct abutter. Beautiful design, the employees are great neighbors, and I did speak to the attorney. The only thing I'd request is I sit behind this house, is that...
Are you beside the pool?
I'll be beside the pool. So we'll be using it many nights, so. No, but the other thing I ask is that the timers, for the lighting be on timers, and that downlighting be used where possible, so it doesn't impact the neighbors. That's the only thing I'd request.
Okay. And make sure the septic is in the correct location?
The dog is small enough so that doesn't...
Okay.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. McFarland, seconded by Mr. Atkinson to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we will call for a vote. Don't have to close any, oh no, we closed the public hearing, correct?
You got to vote on
Okay,
it.
all in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, Joe?
Vote to adopt the following waivers. A recommended motion to approve the waivers pursuant to 400-6 of any and all commercial or residential requirements of the bylaw that are not applicable to this position.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Carried unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, that the following findings of fact are subject to an affidavit to be submitted to the planning board by the property owner that the owners are required to live in one of the two buildings.
That's the only one.
That should be a condition, right?
That should be a condition,
Not a finding.
not a finding. So the
Really?
findings
Yeah,
are
so
on the
that-
bottom of page 2, Joe?
Oh, I got those.
Yeah, that would be a condition
I didn't
under
have
the
any
special
conditions.
permit.
That's a requirement.
That is a requirement.
Okay, so I'll put it under the,
Do you
Motion.
just want to just want to
No,
vote
not
on the
under the
findings of
findings.
fact?
No.
Yeah, I'm getting to it.
Okay, sorry.
Vote to adopt the following findings of fact. One, that the parcel is in the RR and WR zoning district. Two, the apartment unit is not greater than 900 square feet, being 887 plus or minus square feet. Three, it is the owner's intent to continue to reside and occupy the main dwelling on the property. Four, minimum requirements are met for setbacks, area, and bulk. Five, the driveway and garage will provide sufficient off-street parking which meets the minimum requirements. Six, the application as submitted does not adversely affect local traffic or create traffic hazards, 32551H2. Seven, that the owner will install,
No, Joe, that's to go with the condition.
no, I'm gonna put the downlighting in.
That's not a finding of fact, though.
That's not a finding of
So
fact.
they haven't
That should
shown
go with
that.
the condition.
Okay.
Okay, so I second the findings of fact, as Joe read them before we
Those,
stopped him.
those six.
Yes, exactly, all six.
All six have been moved and, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried unanimously.
Before you go on, I'm not sure you can actually condition lighting on a accessory apartment.
Done it
Pool.
before.
The pool's got nothing to do with the accessory apartment. I do believe the applicant has indicated they have no issue
Oh,
with
they'll
that.
comply with it, I understand
Yeah,
that.
but the pool's not part of the approval,
That or a BB rifle.
so.
To approve with conditions the use special permit and waivers for Karen Andrioli owner for a detached accessory apartment pursuant to the Code of the Town of Harwich 325-51H and Article 5 Use Regulation. Proposal seeks to construct an 875 plus or minus square foot, two-story, single-bedroom dwelling unit via the demolition of an existing non-conforming garage. The property is located at 59 Neal Road, map 16, parcel N1-43, in the RR zoning district. The approval is based on the fact that the application meets the necessary requirements and criteria for approval pursuant to the Code of the Town of Harwich with the above findings and following conditions. One, the owner shall maintain occupancy in one of the units as required by the town code. Two, the applicant shall comply with all Board of Health and Conservation Commission requirements. Three, the special permit decision shall be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. I probably should say, shall be recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds, in case they try to wander off someplace.
I don't think I'd find my way to Bristol
Okay.
or Plymouth.
Four, any changes to the plan shall be subject to further planning board review.
And did you want an affidavit from the owner indicating that the property owner shall reside in one of the units shall be submitted to the planning board prior to the issuance of the building permit?
That's what I want.
It's fine.
So that will be condition number 5.
That would be condition number 5.
Okay, with that additional condition, I will second.
It's been moved and moved by Mr. McFarland, seconded by Mr. Atkinson. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, while we're moving along, I think our minutes should reflect the fact that we are graced by the presence of the chairman of the Board of Selectmen.
Unless he
Having
gets
worked-
up to say something, he doesn't go in the minutes.
Having worked till 10 o'clock last night, we appreciate his
Actually, you went to
attendance.
30. And we'll share copies of this so you can see it a little bit better. The small ones came out terrible. If you and Mary want to share that one.
Good.
You never got it. It went to your voicemail. I didn't have a chance to call it back, so.
Okay, let's see, the next item on the agenda. Right up. Sit right down, I know exactly who you are, yes.
Yes, I'm not Tim Brady.
CB 2018-08, Barsley, CR Herring Realty Trust. Timber, engineer and surveyor, representative, seeks endorsement of a two-lot A&R will not required plan pursuant to the Harwich Town Code, Section 400, Article 2, and Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81P. The property is located at Saquatucket Road and Colonial Way, map 15, parcel K6-1, K6-2, K6-3, and K6-5 in the RL zoning district. Counselor, tell us all about it.
Members of the board, my name is Paul Revere. Mr. Brady had other things they had to do tonight. He didn't tell me, just said he was too busy to make it. He just, I can't make it, can you make it, Paul? In any event, this is a follow-up to a prior plan where there was a rescission of a I believe it was a 3-lot subdivision and a roadway that came across Karting Machine Brook from the Brack's Landing property. This is the part 2, which will divide the prior 3 lots and roadway into 2 lots. The lower lot is to be transferred to the abutter Sandra Tanco to the west, and the northern lot is to be combined as a single buildable lot with another property owned by Ms. Tanco to the west and north of the access road. I believe it meets the requirements of an A&R plan because it is on a land court road, has sufficient frontage, meets zoning for the northern, I'll say 2 lots, and the southern lot, it has a notation that it is not to be a buildable lot, but is for conveyance purposes only. I think my time limit is up. Staff report addresses the remainder.
Okay. Let Charlene do it.
Go ahead, sure.
Just, sorry, just having a brain cramp. I do believe that the lots as shown on the plan do comply with the requirements of Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81KGG. Lots 2 and 3 are to be combined into one building lot with frontage on a private way, and Lot 1 is to be combined with an abutting parcel with the required frontage on a private way, that private way being a land court plan. The private way does provide for safe and adequate access based on prior reviews that have taken place regarding this property and adjacent properties. So at this time, it would be my recommendation that the board does vote to endorse this as approval not required.
Joe?
I just want to make sure, Lot 2 is to the left. In other words, the designation on the plan for Lot 2 is actually in Lot 1, I think. No?
No.
I'm having trouble with the lines.
There's a survey line there.
Where, what line for shape?
Right here.
No, the line's right there.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's the line right there. That's Lot 2.
Right on the fold.
Right up on the,
All right, all right.
can I do this just because
No, you
nobody's gonna
can't
be
do
able to.
that, because I want to look at it. Okay, so tell me where Lot 2 is and where Lot 1 is.
Lot 2 goes like this, down like that, and Lot 1 goes down around here. So it's the edge of the river. The eastern side of the lot is the western side of the Andrew River.
What's this?
That's somebody else's property,
How come it says Sandra Tanco on it?
because it's somebody else's, it's Lot 3 is Sandra Tanko's property.
So she owns it all?
No.
No,
Let me walk
Yeah.
over to
that's
here.
Lot 3 of the land court plan. It's confusing.
Yes, it is. I rode in there and looked at it.
Actually, you have a microphone on the table there. Oh, okay.
Okay. Here we go.
You want the little pointy thing?
Close enough. Of course, now we're sideways on what's on here.
Joe?
Okay.
Sorry.
Ms. Tanco owns a semi-rectangular piece of land like this, okay? And this is north on the plan, okay? She owns this, and there's a little roadway that comes in here. My client, the Herring Realty Trust, owns essentially this area of land.
Lot 1.
Proposed Lot 1 and 2.
Okay. Proposed Lot 1 is the southern area of my client's property. Proposed Lot 2 is the northern area of my client's property. Proposed Lot 1 is going to be combined with Ms. Tanko's property, which is south of the roadway, creating a single area of land. Proposed Lot 2 is going to be combined with an area of land north of the roadway, which is also owned by Ms. Tanko, to create a single lot here. Okay? And in the long run, big picture, we're gonna have one buildable lot here, and Ms. Tanko is going to have waterfront and a view across, because this is Saquatucket Harbor, although it says Allen River. Allen River is the historical basis of Saquatucket Harbor. Andrews River. Get my Allen Harbors and, so. Anyway, so that's the essence of the plan. This happens to be on the side from what you're seeing here, but they were essentially two historical rectangular lots. The third one is actually here, but we have two here from back in the 1890s. And what we're doing is cutting this one in half, half going here, half going here.
Now, somebody help me out with the history.
Oh,
Who
God.
was Thomas P.
Going back to-
O'Neill's, who was Thomas P. O'Neill's administrative secretary?
Had to ask the question.
He owned, up further, on the harbor, he owned a property there.
You're complicating it.
I don't know.
That's why we have the harbor, because the speaker said, my executive secretary ought to have a water view.
Yeah.
And so we had the federal government build, that's why the other parking lot in Saquatucket, that was put in by the feds.
Thank God he was a Republican.
No, he wasn't. As my own man would say, he was one of our own.
Yeah, he was.
So,
Just a little
Okay.
history comment, you know, has nothing to do with what
you got it on record. Any other questions? Okay.
So you have a findings vote and a board vote on the plan.
Hearing no other,
Move to
wait a minute.
adopt.
There might be somebody from the public,
Oh.
this is the public hearing.
It's not a public hearing, it's a public meeting.
Public
You don't have
meeting.
to entertain
Would-
any comments
Would
on
anybody
any-
like to comment? Hearing no further comments from the public either. Go ahead, Joe.
Vote to adopt that said plan does not constitute a subdivision as the way shown on a plan, therefore approved and endorsed in accordance with the subdivision control law, and shall on Land Court Plan 11526C provide safe and adequate access.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 It has been carried unanimously.
Move to endorse the A&R plan entitled Plan of Land prepared for Herring Realty Trust by East Cape Engineering, Inc., dated January 23rd, 2018, scale 1 to 40.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried unanimously.
Now, that'll bug me.
Special plan.
Go home and open my Dipple Mill book.
Thank you very much.
Google it.
And we do have two plans because, I don't know why, this is just a small version, right?
Assume so.
Sign them both.
Sign 'em
I am
both.
not Tim Brady.
We don't very often have a Brady and
I
a
did not
Revere
read
on
it.
one separate, on a plan, do we?
Just, you gotta be really careful not to rub paper on these, because when we go to listen to it, it's like
It was fingers on a chalkboard just now.
really bad.
Thank you, Counselor.
You did a great pinch hit job.
As long as it's black.
I'm sorry, oh, here, I have a black pen, there you go. Isn't,
So they're just
it feels like oilskin.
That needs to be signed in black.
There you go. Glad I went to Staples.
Get the name of the book. It's about him and radio.
He was, wasn't he the one that they did the cassette tape of Irish songs that he and Tip sang? Sold as a fundraiser or something. I can't think of his name.
Such a great book. You want to look.
I think you may need to sign with the black pen.
That is black.
Okay, all right.
$200,000.
Is this yours?
No, it,
No,
oh,
it came
Oh,
down.
that's Mary's.
okay,
Thanks.
moving right along. PB 2018-7, Eastwood MBT LLC trustee owner Susan Ledoux, Eastwood Companies. Representative seeks approval of a two-lot ANR, approval not required plan pursuant to the Harwich Town Code, Section 400, Article 2, and Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81P. The property is located at 1522 and 1546 Orleans Road, map 97, parcel B2-1 and B2-2 respectively, in the RR and WR zoning districts. Ms. Ledoux.
Hi, good evening. Susan Ledoux from Eastwood Companies. I was here almost exactly a year ago with an A&R plan, and the board, for 2 lots, and the board signed that plan or endorsed it. And at the time, we were purchasing the property from Dean Bascom and carved off the, you'll probably know the property with the little sort of like beach house with the beach grass out front, and there's a garage in the back. So we're carving off a lot for just those 2 structures. And then we have the remaining 8.5 acres left, and I'll be back before you in 2 weeks with a preliminary subdivision plan. But at that time, we found out in the course of our dealings with Mr. Bascom that he did not own as much property as he thought, and that's when I had to withdraw the subdivision plan that we had, which will be the next topic on your agenda. So we're back before you. We purchased the property from Mr. Bascom with the right amount and also additional property that he thought he owned and a little bit more from Paul O'Connell. And that's what you have before you tonight. So it's a 2-lot A&R plan. Both lots have frontage on Orleans Road and adequate area for building lots.
Charlene?
Excuse me, the application does meet the proposed minimum criteria for endorsement as an approval not required plan. Each lot contains adequate frontage on Route 39, and the application, the plan I just handed out to you does now have the correct map and parcel on it. Health Department just said these 2 lots are within the water recharge area and are subject to a maximum of 110 gallons per day of septic flow per 10,000 square feet. Lot 1 is limited to a maximum of 6 bedrooms or 660 gallons per day. Lot 2 may be subject to Board of Health Regulations 1.2.11 if the total design flow exceeds 2,000 gallons per day, or if this lot is subdivided in the future.
Okay, any questions?
Is the plan to make this a subdivision?
It is. And that's what I'll be back in 2 weeks with an 8-lot subdivision.
In Lot 2. In what we see on this plan, that's Lot 2.
Okay, any other questions?
Just a side note, Mr. Chairman, the owners unknown have appeared again.
Oh, yes, oh, yeah.
He's a tricky little fellow, isn't he?
Yeah. It's just one of our.
Once they find
It's
out.
one of our, yeah.
Yeah, when they find out it's usable.
Well, we're trying to find that Mr. Unknown, and
You're hopeful. You're hopeful.
He'll show up, guaranteed.
Oh,
Yeah.
he will, once he realizes that you've got a buildable.
Okay, no other questions?
What happens when Mr. Unknown shows up?
He gets, he
If he
tries
can
to
prove he
negotiate, he tries to prove he owns it.
and if he can prove he owns it, then he gets,
He starts getting taxed for it.
Winning lottery ticket.
starts to get taxed and eventually
He gets
sells
old
it
tax bills.
to.
Only
build
if there's
it.
been old tax bills. It's complicated.
That area down in the sand pit is a well-known area of owners unknown who all of a sudden come to the surface.
Know it well.
With the first truckload. Okay,
And also, whoever is going to make the motion for the board vote, you do want to indicate where it says dated 1/26/18, revised 2/13/18.
Wait a minute.
Actually,
223.
2/23/18, yep. If you want to give him that, I highlighted it.
I've got it, I'm good.
okay, go right ahead.
Let's use this. You have to close, don't you? No.
No, public meeting.
Vote to adopt that the said plan does not constitute a subdivision as the way shown on a plan, a public way, town, or road provides safe and adequate access.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried unanimously.
Motion to endorse the A&R plan entitled, quote, "Division Plan," unquote, prepared for Eastwood Homes Business Trust by Terry A. Warner, PLS, dated 1/26/18, revised 2/23/18, scale 1 to 60.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scriven. I think they need that. Do you need these, Charlene?
I do need a couple of them back, yes.
Mary, do you sign that? You sign it in Polish?
What?
You sign your name in Polish?
Thanks, Joe. Thanks. Getting killed today.
Okay,
Getting killed.
let's see. Moving on to item B, old business, PB 2017-5. Dean Bascom, Eastwood Company's representative, seeks approval of an extension of a time limit in which to file a definitive subdivision. The planning board approved a waiver of the filing fee for a new application, provided it was filed within 1 year.
That's me again.
Yep.
Susan Ledoux from
Come on,
Eastwood
Dean.
Companies. So as I explained with the previous application or plan, last year when we found out that Mr. Bascom did not own all the property that he thought he did, we withdrew our plan, definitive plan from the board. board's review, and then set about trying to discover, who owned the rest of the land, and found out Paul O'Connell did, and that's why we'll be back before you with the preliminary plan. And unfortunately, by the time we get to our definitive, which is, I'm hoping in the next couple of months, once we get an approval for preliminary, we'll be back with the definitive, and we were just asking for an extension of 6 months to apply that $4,200 that we paid last year to this new filing fee. Now, I will say that we will have additional lots with this, so we will still be paying some of a filing fee. When I did the calculation today, the new filing fee will be about $6,300. And I believe if you file within 7 months of the preliminary, that fee for the preliminary is deducted from the definitive,
I think so,
if I read it correctly. So we submitted $1,575 for the preliminary that's coming before you in 2 weeks. So that would be $4,725 minus $4,200 would leave us at $525 that we'd still be paying, because we will have a few additional lots, and we still will pay the abutters list request fee. So it's not as if we won't be paying at all, but we'd really like to get an extension for that $4,200 that we paid last year and had to withdraw.
Charlene?
This is entirely the board's decision to make. However, I do want to let you know that when this came before the board a year ago, staff, planning, health, highway, conservation, engineering, surveying, and police did spend a number of hours reviewing the prior application and plans, and funds were spent on the advertising. So it's not like it was withdrawn before there was any review done. There was extensive review done by staff, but it's entirely up to the board.
I guess one question, when you do come back, does Mr. Unknown pay for this?
I don't think Mr. Nunn will be out of the woodwork at that point, so.
Joe?
Mr. Chairman, I read all of this, and as the saying goes, these folks are not new to this rodeo. They've been before our board. I'm 12 years on the board. I gotta believe I've seen you 30, 40 times in 12 years. So my instincts is to give them the extension, primarily because of the fact that they've been long time. If we were in business, they'd be known as long-time customers, and for those reasons, I would be in favor of giving them the 6 months extension.
What else? Jim?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, through you, I would just like to ask Charlene whether or not she has any sense as to how much money the town has already spent on the prior.
I didn't
You
break
really
it
don't.
down
Okay.
to that, because I have no idea how much time engineering spent on it, or police, or, I just know that those departments did review the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Jim.
Please, Larry. Are there dramatic changes between the former plan and what you think you're going to submit?
Well, it didn't actually make it to the board for review. I submitted it, then I it's 3 additional lots where we should be proposing an open space subdivision at this moment. We will bring a grid before you in 2 weeks, so you could, to, prove that we can show 8 grid lots, and then an open space subdivision. So it's 3 additional lots from what we had last year, because
it's bigger.
Because when we found out there were 2 owners, not 1, and there was some additional land, it ended up being enough for 3 more lots.
Okay. I mean, the reason for the question, frankly, is all the work that was done by the town of Harwich. If there's, I mean, maybe it won't require that much review this time around if there's no substantial change. If there is, then, we've wasted time and money.
Yeah, no, I understand, and I look back at the dates, and we submitted on January 16th of last year, and I requested a withdrawal on February 6th. So I tried to, as soon as I found out there were issues, I tried to request. It's just that the board didn't have a meeting until the 28th of February, so.
Go ahead.
I also came to my mind after you said a few things. At a time when this board, I don't think, I'm looking around, you might have been on then, at a time when this board was having a struggle with our good friends from East Harwich. Mr. Marsh came every single meeting, sat right on that front row with others, not just.
I was there.
Yeah, not just him, but others, and I appreciated that support.
Yeah. Just to add to what Joe said, not only did he come to the meetings, but he came to the subcommittee meetings and gave some very helpful input into our subcommittee meetings on that issue.
Make the motion.
Make a motion that we extend the period for the filing fee for 6 months. Is that what I need?
Yeah, thank you.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
For the record, I'm from East Harwich.
Were you at any of the meetings?
Oh, yeah.
Were you at that time?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Okay. Let's see. Next item on the agenda are briefings and reports by board members. Joseph, any?
I have nothing.
Nothing?
Capital
Mary?
outlay is quiet right now.
Nothing? Looks like a quiet month. February is a
Historic
quiet
didn't have a
month.
quorum, so we had no meeting
Oh, you had trouble with the quorum?
last week.
You'll notice we didn't. If there's no, I don't have one to report. We could probably chat for a while, but Charlene has already given me the snake's eye a quarter.
I'm ready to fall asleep. I'm
She was
really
here with the
sorry.
chairman till 10 o'clock last night.
Okay, do we have any minutes to approve? No.
I haven't seen it.
No.
No? Okay, Joe?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been motioned, second, third, and fourth. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved.